and welcome back to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm Cody.
And today we're here to remind you that most snakes are more scared of you than you are of them.
Thank you.
As you can tell, Eryn, the Mad Poop Up McGarry, has returned along with Jesse Livingston from our Monday episode to talk a little bit and hang out for a little bit before they have to leave today. So, let's jump right into it. Cody, what is something you love and something you hate?
I'm gonna go with something I hate first, just because. Which is funny because we normally don't have anything that jumps on the hype train as early when we come out with our episodes, but the whole thing with James Gunn and Dan Harmon.
Yeah.
Fuck, man, that's fucking stupid. Jesus Christ.
What happened with Dan Harmon?
So just real quick, it's because it ties into what happened with James Gunn. You know, if you haven't heard, James Gunn got released from the Guardians movies because of some offensive tweets he had 9 years ago, which he has apologized immensely, profusely, forever, about them and everything. Even when he got hired on to do the first Guardians, he acknowledged those and apologized all the time about them and stuff like that. And he's like, I was a different person, you know, everything.
Right.
And then... but it all came out because the CEO of Disney is actually really good friends with Trump, and because James Gunn is very anti-Trump and very verbal about it, he was just like, F this guy, is basically what the CEO did and stuff like that. And people are like, Disney, have you seen your original catalog? One of your movies is literally banned from being shown because it's so racist.
And technically, they're also own Pulp Fiction, which is not a famfamily movie either.
It's not a family-friendly movie. And the Walt Disney is a well-known anti-Semite.
Those were different times.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. That's the point.
Those
were different times.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's just and you're firing him over tweets he's already apologized for, that the public has already forgiven him for and everything.
And they hired him knowing about the tweets, right?
And hired him knowing about it. And it's it's so ridiculous. And so what happened was that a lot of the Hollywood actors and everything actually came out in uproar against Disney about this. His petition to get him re-signed hit 300,000 within a couple weeks.
Yeah.
That happens for nothing.
The Guardians.
Literally nothing. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, which guy is it?
The director.
He's the director.
Oh,
he's the one who created...
he started out with Slither, right? Did he do Slither?
Yes.
I love Slither.
That was indie horror.
Yeah. And fun fact though, is when James Gunn was first approached for it way back then, he didn't really even want to do a hero film, didn't really know much about Guardians, I don't think, and so he just was
because no one did.
And so he's like, fine, I'll take it on, and it blew up.
And the formula for the Guardians movies is reused in every single superhero movie since then. Look at the bright colors, throwing in a little bit more comedy.
Thor Ragnarok.
Thor Ragnarok especially. And even the DC films are picking up on James Gunn stuff. And so after that, within a couple days, Dan Harmon got outed about a skit he did on his old TV show called Channel 101, where it was basically just it satirized all the big shit that was happening around back then. So Dexter was really, really big, and Dan Harmon did a short flick where he was making fun of Dexter and Showtime about how they'll put anything in a show and stuff like that just to get the shock and awe, because serial killers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he picked up a doll, a baby doll, and he just rubbed it on his crotch. That's the video. He was making fun of Dexter.
My sensibilities.
And so everyone was an outcry about it. It's probably a little bit more detailed. I think he's pantsless and stuff like that in it. But it's satirizing Dexter. It was straight up and it was a satirizing show.
Yeah.
And so everyone's flipping out about it in Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. This is also something I love. They're just fuck you guys. No. Because they were saying, fire him. They're you want to get rid of Rick and Morty? Because this is how we get rid of Rick and Morty.
Right, yeah.
And Cartoon Network and Adult Swim are this is our moneymaker, so you all can go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
And Dan Harmon deleted his tweets, and he did apologize. He's look, I'm sorry I did that back then, but y'all can still go fuck yourselves, because this was 7 years ago.
I want to add in on to what you're saying. To be fair, it's like that South Park episode when they're touching on racist. I forget what episode it was, but Kyle basically was like, it's either all acceptable or none of it's acceptable, like talking about like racism and like really offensive jokes.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to go that far, Jimmy Kimmel needs to be taken off air, because way back when he did the Man Show, he actually appeared in a skit with blackface.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is people are getting a little too sensitive at this point.
Oh yeah,
So
it's
either
getting to the point
it's
of
either
fascism.
all acceptable
Yeah.
or it's none of it's acceptable.
Yeah, because like I know we try not to stay away from the political thing, but everything that's happening right now, like James Gunn is like, honestly, in my point, is like the breaking point of like how it can end up being with this whole like hardcore PC offense. I'm offended. I need safe space shit. Fascism. This is the leading to fascism. You can't say that. You're not allowed. You lose your career. You lose your life and stuff like that. And it's like, look who the fuck is our president. Sorry, like again, but like, it's like, come on.
Again, it's either all acceptable or none of it's acceptable.
Yeah.
So, and we got to make a choice and stick with it.
Yeah, so it's like, I agree there are things that you shouldn't say and stuff like that if you're purposely trying to be hurtful. Straight up, like if I went up to someone and
it's
said
all in the
shit,
context.
Yeah.
And comedy is how a lot of people deal with things.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So-
Anthony Jeselnik is one of like the most famous comics, and like he got famous because he says offensive, really bad shit.
Daniel Tosh.
Yeah.
Like
that was the thing for a while, is like, be as offensive as you can, and you're
Yeah.
like, even when South Park started,
Yeah, I mean, they're still the most offensive thing that you can ever watch on a TV show and stuff
And it's
like
wonderful.
that. And it's still Comedy Central's highest grossing show. Like, and it's like, people's like, oh, it's because it's a cartoon, it's fake.
No.
It's like, they are touching on real shit. This is what you actually look like. It's like, to me, but... Yeah, sorry, I kind of want to tire. It's just like, it pisses me off when this like whole PC culture shit goes way too far. This was things that happened years ago.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't offensive years ago, but nowadays it's like safe space. I'll fucking stab your safe space. Like, fuck that. There shouldn't be a safe space.
Someone should make a horror film called Safe Space.
Oh my God. That's our next venture, safe space.
It's not like we have a writer and director here.
And people that wouldn't mind being in it.
So what do you love, Cody?
Well, I love candy. I just
Such
been
a
kind of
simple
munching on
answer.
candy.
It's I have like a whole thing of candy.
Yeah.
You guys are welcome to some if you want some. So most of it hasn't been opened yet.
Yeah.
So
Stay.
so
But no, honestly, actually,
I'm just getting candy now.
I just started playing a new game, and like what I really like is that I've really been getting back into gaming a little bit more, and trying out new things and trying out games that I've always wanted to try but never had a chance to. So I just started the Bayonetta series.
Oh yeah.
So I just got a Switch, and if you buy the brand new one, you get the first one for free as a downloadable content. And so I just started playing the first Bayonetta, and oh my God, it's so good. It's so tongue-in-cheek, B-movie, like horror / I mean, it's straight up trying to be a comedy action flick, but, it has the horror elements with demons and angels and like all kinds of stuff like that. It's
family pastimes.
so goddamn funny, and it's so tongue-in-cheek, and it's great. Like, I
That's
love
another
games
one
that are like that.
That one got a lot of shit for being offensive.
Yeah, because it was too sexual.
Right.
It showed
it's
her
like-
butt.
Right.
Yeah, because you can see
her
her
butt.
butt, and it shows her entire boobs except for nipples. Like that. It's like, okay, but she's whipping the shit out of everything. Like,
With her
that
boobs?
bitch is awesome. No, her hair,
Okay.
actually. Her hair is her power, and her clothes are made of her hair, so when she summons the giant demon, she gets naked.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's totally tongue in cheek, like you were saying.
Yeah,
it's like
that's-
over the top.
Yeah, it's so over the top, over sexualized and over the top tongue in cheek stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so funny, like, and then the combat is so smooth. It's like one of the smoothest action games that I've ever played. That's why I love Platinum Games, and their game Nier Automata is one of the most underrated video games to ever come out in the past couple of years, and it's a shame because it's so good and the story's so great, and so like that's why I've been really enjoying Bayonetta. So
Nice.
What about you, Eryn? So we can make sure we get you guys.
Let's see. So something that should I start with hate or love?
It's your choice.
yeah,
Dealer's
Something that I
choice.
love, that my new obsession is Tommy Cash. He is an Estonian rapper,
Okay.
and he's so ridiculous. But it's like one of those weird, like, he's poking a lot of fun at American culture, like with
Like,
the...
are we talking about like the Ant word ridiculous or Stitch is ridiculous?
He does get a lot of comparisons to Die Antwoord, or D Ant, whatever.
Diane.
But he has, like, his newest video that I love, that is what kind of turned me on to him. It's called Little Molly, and it's, like, a ridiculous song. But it's, like, his face plastered on, like, everybody that's in the video. It's so weird. And then he has another video, and he's strangely hot for like, oh boy. He's like number 2 to Zach Bagans over here. Girls on fire right now.
You can only pick one. We've been over this.
Yes,
I will never just pick one. But he has a whole video. He actually went, I think it was 3 months without having sex or like masturbating, nothing. And this whole video is just like so disturbing. It's called Surf. And it's just like sexual references out of like really innocent stuff. And it's like when you get that intensely like horny, you just start seeing it everywhere. It's like such a weird concept, but I'm just so into it. More or less. That's what I watch at work every day is Tommy Cash on one side, like jamming out in my cube and shit. But yeah, he's really weird, and I think that people might appreciate it, like more artistic people, even if you're not like into rap.
Yeah.
Like his video concepts are super disturbing and awesome. And
No,
shit.
we're fans of the obscure and weird.
Yeah.
Lots of naked people. It's pretty cool.
I
Go
was saying,
Estonia.
I love the Antwoord, and their music videos are
I
on
love
point.
that.
So
Yeah.
like,
But something I hate that has really been bothering me lately, and I hope this doesn't bite me in the ass for saying this later, but I'm part on Facebook. I'm part of a lot of different like paranormal groups.
Right.
Mostly just because like when we have new stuff, I can go post it in the groups and stuff. But like there's a reason that people don't take our community seriously, and that's because 80% of the people in it are fucking idiots. Like I'm telling
that
you.
ran about the whole
Oh, yeah.
dust and orbs.
Like there's in these groups,
Yeah,
people
I
will
think
take a
so,
fucking
too.
picture in a graveyard outside in the middle of the night where there's dirt everywhere, and they're like, "Oh my god, look at all the orbs!" And I'm like, "You fucking morons!" Or I forget the exact word. Like when
Idiots,
you.
dumbasses,
It's called when you
Sons of
look at
bitches.
something and you like if you stare at something long enough, like if you stare in a dark corner at night and you're scared and you're looking
it,
and you start
plays a trick on your mind.
yeah, and
Illusion.
there's
maybe?
some like scientific word.
Yeah.
And I can't remember it.
Deceived.
Deception.
Duped.
Got duped. Or pooped if you're me. But and people are just ridiculous. And then they started this whole hate group or like whole hate comment section about like someone raised their prices
Okay.
to like a little bit, like to be able to investigate overnight.
Right.
But somebody has to stay there. You can't just like go in the museum without
Right.
anybody here. They have to pay that person. It's a fucking museum.
Yeah.
Like they're nonprofit.
yeah.
Right.
And it just pisses me off that, and none of them know how to type correctly. None of them know how to spell. A lot of them are actually like very nasty people.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow, it's no wonder everybody thinks this whole community is a bunch of idiots. And I'm super glad I found Code 3 Paranormal.
I've seen that with a lot of like paranormal investigators, and like you can disagree or agree with me if you want. My whole theory is that a lot of them are people who didn't really have a niche for most of their life, and when they finally found one that they knew that they were good at, it kind of gave them an ego when people came to them for help. So it's like if someone tries to bring in a question that might put a loophole in their process, then that person gets really, uptight and very just like, how would you know? Like, kind of like...
Oh, yeah,
in
no,
the-
I totally agree.
I mean, that's my theory.
And you're not wrong. The worst problem, though, is the people that think everything is paranormal. Because most of the time, you can debunk it. You can figure out, like, okay, like, that was someone walking upstairs. Or 90% of the time, you can debunk it. And everything's not an orb. Every sound is not someone trying to communicate with you. Like, it's just ridiculous to me. And that's why we all look like idiots. But yay, Tommy Cash.
Yay, Tommy Cash. What about you, Jesse?
Well, actually, something I've been obsessed with recently, there's a comedian called James Acaster, and he has 4 different specials on Netflix. I think they're all like an hour long, and he's like, for a long time, John Mulaney was my favorite stand-up of all time.
I
It's
love
really
him.
funny.
Yeah.
I love his story about the bar.
Yeah.
The restaurant.
Play
Restaurant.
What's New
Yeah,
Pussycat?
playing
Yeah.
it's so
My
good.
favorite's Delta Airlines.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Because we're
Can we get
Delta
John Mulaney on the
Airlines.
podcast? That'd be so good.
Oh my
to get him on
God.
the
Fucking
podcast.
nightmare. We know.
Yeah, and his story about Bill Clinton, have you seen that?
Yeah. So good.
That's like the best story I've heard, the best true story I've heard anybody tell ever.
Yeah,
It's
well,
incredible.
I like relate
And
to
Big
that.
Mouth. Big Mouth is
Big
amazing.
Mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I relate to that Bill Clinton joke though because okay, here's why. It's because when we go to our high school reunion, fucking Jeremiah Searles is in the NFL. I graduated with that kid, so it's like, yeah. I run a podcast, Mr. NFL Pro Football Player.
Right. Yeah.
So when he talks about his parents, they're like, yeah, could you imagine going to school with the President of the United States?
When someone asks that, I'm like, yes, I can. It absolutely terrifies me. A good portion of my graduating class is a bunch of assholes.
But yeah, so I never thought anyone would replace him in my heart, but there's a comedian from England named James Acaster, and he just does this incredible, it's basically 4 episodes of a single show. I think he shot it in 4 nights. Mm-hmm. And he just makes references back and forth, to stuff that happened in the first special, in the 4th special, and people are getting those references, and he's just the funniest dude I've ever seen.
James Acaster.
James Acaster.
I'll have to check that out.
Mm-hmm. So I usually watch Tom Segura.
Mm-hmm.
I love Tom Segura.
I just watched his most recent one.
Yeah, it's so good.
That's funny.
He talks about the porn warehouse. I love that one so much. It's you get a blowjob through that hole. You mean there's a girl behind there? There was one car in the parking lot. Who do you think's here?
Right. And then stuff I hate, I'm actually going to go with something that relates to what you were talking about, which is fans of a certain thing feeling like they own that thing and can be really hateful to the creators and the people that were harassing the Star Wars actors online and
it's ridiculous.
making them
Yeah, we talked about that.
It's just I'm not a religious person, but if you let yourself be that hateful, it's gonna affect your soul. It's just gonna
I just think it's shameful when because people who love Star Wars and people who love Twin Peaks, Evil Dead, or whatever kind of following you want to put in, usually are considered outcast nerds and have been mistreated, bullied, what have you said. I mean, even Cody have, and I'm sure you guys at some point have as well. And to flip that and then act that same way towards the people that made something that connects you,
that made the thing you love,
that helped get you through those hard times,
it helps you find friends.
I think you should politely back out as a fan until you get your head on straight and then come back. That'd be my opinion.
Totally.
Very good point.
So thank you. So something I love and hate. So I'm gonna end with something I love because it's actually real kind of tear jerking. So the thing I hate is just kind of this thing I've been kind of annoyed with for a long time now, and it's people getting killed of dumb things and people having sympathy for that. So I'm not talking about accidents on the job. I'm talking about okay, so here's how it happened. So my friend shared this video on her Facebook of these 3 people standing in a bullpen, standing in hula hoops, and I guess the game is you can't move out of the hula hoop if the bull tries to charge you. Well, guess what happened? Eventually, a bull charged someone and almost killed the girl. I don't even know if she's alive or if she's in a coma, full on, because this was a small skinny girl, kind of like Eryn here, right? Got fully taken out by a bull, and I'm just
I'd probably die.
And then I think about it, and it made me think of this show on Animal Planet where it was called Eaten Alive or something like that, and it was there was a story about how this woman took her son to this guy who just has a tiger, and her son made too quick of a movement, and the tiger does what a tiger does and reacted and attacked the son, and the
tiger's in trouble.
Yeah, and the tiger put down, and it pissed me off because I'm I'm not going to feel sad for your son or you if they get killed. I mean, I'm going to feel more sad for the son because you're his parent. But when people just get killed because of things they bring on themselves, it just really kind of pisses me off, and I hate the whole sympathy side about it. He was such a good-hearted person. Oh, she was so sweet. And I'm
I'm sure they were.
I'm she got killed by her own fucking tiger. She was asking for it. That's a wild animal. She doesn't run a sanctuary. She's keeping it in her backyard. Eventually that tiger's gonna want to eat something bigger than dead meat. And it just I just get so mad at sympathy for dumb people. It makes me angry. I understand, and you can say I'm heartless, you can say I'm not being understanding, but it's at some point we got to remember Darwin.
Well, I would say that actually just kind of going off of that whole thing where it shows a cop berating this mom because she left her kids locked in their car on a 100-degree day
that twat.
For an hour. That somebody saw the kids locked in there, and they weren't good-sized kids. They were fucking toddlers and babies.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Locked him in her car, and the cop is berating her. He's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
it's 100 degrees out. It's going to be even hotter in your car. You had an ambulance called, a fire truck, and me. Are you fucking kidding?" And like berating is like, "How could you leave your children there?" She's like, "I needed to go shopping." Then take your kids with you,
or find a babysitter.
That's
he's
not
berating
a
her.
fucking excuse.
And like, like berating her about all this, and there's comments saying, "Oh, he shouldn't be that hard on her." I was like, her kid should be taken away.
Yeah.
Like at that point. Like,
in my
since they're
opinion,
not
she
even
should
dead.
probably get shot instead. But
Yeah,
I mean, whatever.
but like it's just like the
But
fact
I'm
that
the
people
asshole.
would defend her and like berate the cop. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Okay, that means you're one of those morons that would leave their kid in the car, on a 100-degree weather day. I don't care if it was like for 30 seconds to a fucking hour. Like, you don't do that. You don't do that to your kids, and you fucking don't do that to your dogs
I
either.
hate children, and I would never do that.
Yeah. I was like, you just don't do that. And just the fact that like people are trying to defend her. So like,
I know. It's fucking stupid.
defense of stupidities, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, seriously. Go fuck yourself. It's stupid. So something I love, though, is that recently there was this article, I think it was from Bloody Disgusting, the amazing people at Bloody Disgusting. I'm going to keep dropping their name until they recognize us and want to do something with us.
Bloody disgusting.
Bloody Disgusting.
Bloody Disgusting.
We're just going to have a whole 40-minute episode that's just saying Bloody Disgusting. So posted this article from, I think it was like the San Diego Comic-Con, of this man who went up to the Halloween panel, and Jamie Lee Curtis is there, and he broke down in tears telling her that it was because of her in the movie Halloween that he survived someone trying to kill him with a knife. Because a quote from him was saying that, what would Jamie Lee Curtis do right now? Or, what was the character she played?
Laurie Strode.
Yeah, he said, what would Laurie Strode do right now? And so Jamie Lee put her whole, never that she really was big on her ego, came down from the panel and like hugged him, and like he cried in her arms, and I was like, it made me happy because it's like, it made me think of something that someone I know said, that horror is a terrible genre and all horror movies are bad. I'm like, no, it's not. Obviously,
our
like,
community is very.
This person survived because of Halloween. Because of the movie Halloween, he survived possibly getting stabbed to death by a lunatic. In his own neighborhood, and it's just like, it just brings me back to like how much important horror is in general, and how connected it is, and needs to be more appreciated. Because if it could say, I can't say someone has survived an attack because of Die Hard. And someone has
honestly, it'd be more like, what would John McClane do? And then next day on the news, local man dies after coming out.
Loco suit would be terrorist. Dies trying to break into a window from repelling.
Yeah.
Just like smack.
We do have a great community though. Like the couple of horror conventions I've been to, everybody is like so nice and like wants to talk and get to know you, and everybody's just so excited and passionate about it. And it's
kind of something like what we said to Dan and Patricia on our most recent episodes, is that like they're welcome here because like we're a bunch of losers. We've all been called freaks or something at some point.
Yeah, we're all
and
part of the Losers Club.
Yeah, and yet we're the ones willing to sit through an intense, gory movie and be like, hell yeah!
get it.
So that's my thing I love and hate. That was a good round table discussion of things we love and hate. So it's 6:55 now. I don't know if you guys got to head out.
I got a couple minutes.
You got a couple minutes?
I told dude to pick me up later.
So we got a couple indie films that we're going to talk about and review for you guys. So to keep with you guys as time constraints, we'll give you the start of this, and you guys can talk about some movie, quick little review of some horror movies that are independent that you guys love. Okay. So Jesse, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So you were talking about Bloody Disgusting earlier. I can't remember when this was. They did like a series of films that they like put their stamp on.
Yeah.
And one of them was a film called YellowBrickRoad, which I think is my favorite horror film of all time. It's like the one that really like disturbed and like shook me the most. And it's basically about this group of filmmakers that go out in the wilderness because there's this town where all of the residents just like got up and left one day and walked off into the woods, and they're like following the trail of where these people went and trying to figure out what happened. And I just really recommend that film. It's like one that very few people have heard of. I think you have to be like hardcore into horror movies to even like have it on your radar. But like,
you hear that, Bloody Disgusting?
Yeah.
yeah, like a soon to be famous writer director here. You should totally work with him.
Right, yeah.
They're like, I think it's funny. Like Bloody Disgusting is kind of like our Oprah Winfrey stamp. It's like if Bloody Disgusting likes it, then I'm gonna watch it.
We're probably gonna like it.
And this came out in 2010, and I've never heard of it. I'm upset
I
with
just
myself.
looked it up too.
I'm slacking.
Right?
I don't think the comparison of Bloody Disgusting is our Oprah.
Yeah, I've got it on DVD if you want to borrow it. I don't know where you can watch it now, but it's really.
We'll make an exchange. I'll give you Evil Dead.
Okay.
That makes me really hope
Shit,
one day
Clark
we're
Freeman's
the
in it too. Oh,
Yeah, it was made
Alright.
by just it was like their first movie, and it was just amazing.
That's so cool.
That makes me hope one day that we can be considered the Ellen of the horror community. So, if we ever have guests, we can just give them like uncomfortable looks, like I didn't want this guest. No, I'll just play it.
I mean, in reality, we're always dancing. So.
Eryn, how about you?
I think like we were talking about earlier, it's so hard to like distinguish, I think, what really is truly indie and what isn't.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to go with Eraserhead.
All right.
And it was David Lynch's like first full horror film, and it's not even, it's hard to say, it's not like straight horror.
He's in his own category, but
Yeah.
but a lot of his stuff is really like horror. Yeah.
And that's how people just like throw it in the horror category, because they're like, well, David Lynch is his own thing, but we'll just put it in horror. And that movie is so, I mean, it was in the 70s, I think 77, something like that.
It doesn't look like it from where it's from, like year wise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it looks like more of like an 80s or 90s flick, honestly. Like, I mean, that's in my opinion. I mean, obviously from first glance you could tell it's like a 70s flick, but when you really dive into it, it looks like way before its time.
And it's super disturbing. I mean, that's one of those, there's really not a lot of dialogue in it.
Yeah.
Like there's a few, like there's scenes where there's dialogue, but a lot of it is just carried by imagery.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's, I guess, David Lynch's.
Yeah.
Oh, David
We
Lynch.
actually have a mutual friend who did like a film project parodying Eraserhead, and he actually dressed up like.
Nice.
Oh, like,
yeah. So I was.
So did Tony.
Oh.
when we had a David Lynch night at Twin Peaks.
Oh, nice.
And we did cosplay of any David Lynch character. We had someone dress up like him too.
Nice.
But I think that one is just such a cool one, because that really was like his first go at it, and it took a long time to film because of funding issues.
Yeah.
Which shows sort of like what you run into, and obviously that's a cult classic.
Oh yeah.
But
Fun fact: do you know who saw Eraserhead and then loved it and helped launch David Lynch's career? Mel Brooks.
no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
The
I was
dude.
like, yeah.
God, I love Will Brooks.
The dude from Blazing Saddles. helped David Lynch.
Yep.
Blazing Saddles, which probably would not fly for today's
No.
standards.
No, it wouldn't.
And I feel like
And
a
it's
lot
rated
of
G.
like it's rated G.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's
really?
PG.
Shut up.
Dead serious.
Wow.
What it is.
For some of the
nowadays.
jokes in that, like, I'm not going to say jokes on here so we don't get any flack.
I know.
Like,
Badges. We don't need no stinking
Well, what do you?
badges.
Because have you guys seen a lot of David Lynch? I know you have.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you consider? I mean, almost all of his stuff seems indie, in a way.
A lot of it kind of is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he will
I think.
try to
Even though
work
he's-
outside of the studio system. Like when we were watching the new, like the behind the scenes for the new Twin Peaks, he was basically saying like, I don't understand how to make a Hollywood production. Like,
Yeah, he's like,
it's just
fuck
not
this time constraint.
Yeah, he's like, it's
I'm
just
pretty
not,
sure his method is just wing it.
right. Yeah, he like really wants to like just like spend time in a certain like location and really like just experiment and see like what they can figure out there. Yeah.
Which is the beauty of like the whole indie aspect is
Yeah.
when he's not on Showtime's budget for Twin Peaks, he can spend 3 days trying to get
Yeah.
2 shots if he wants to.
Right.
In my opinion, I consider like John Carpenter like the king of like, well, arguably the king of like cult films. But I consider like David Lynch the king of like indie films. I mean, that's just in my opinion.
He's the king of my life.
So you can only
thought it was
have
Zach Bagans.
one. Only one.
I'm not
Only
trying to
one.
marry David Lynch.
So you're telling.
He's like my god. 'Cause I'm not religious, so David Lynch is my god, and I'll marry like Zach Bagans, Tommy Cash, like.
But wouldn't you have to be a
Whoever.
little religious of David Lynch to appreciate David Lynch as a god?
Well, we are
just saying.
a cult. Like we literally are a cult.
So
we
then you
call
are
ourselves that.
religious, okay?
Yeah.
Contradicted
Jesus.
yourself.
Okay, I'm that
Get with
kind
it,
of.
Eryn.
I'm not Christian.
All right. The you know, but it's still out on Mormon, atheist, Jehovah's Witness, because you say you're not a
Satanist.
Christian.
Okay, I'm a witch.
Satanist.
David Lynch worshipping witch. There we go.
That's better. We're gonna. That might take.
Lynch witch.
Hey,
Lynch witch. Oh.
Lynch witch.
Lynch witch.
Hey, maybe Lynch witch will take over Mad Pooper.
I would so be cool with that.
You still haven't
I
fully
don't
said if you
know.
appreciate the name or not.
I think it's hilarious. I roll with it. I think it's funny.
I was say
I've been called worse.
All right.
We all have.
Yeah. So now going on to our movie reviews. And
I actually might take off now because I want to see both of these movies.
Okay, fine. So good. We're not going to spoil it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I'll head out too, but I will just say I love Adam Scott. He's like maybe my favorite actor.
Yeah,
And
I love him
Little Evil
So
is,
much.
Little Evil is fantastic.
so that being said, listeners, we're going to take a real quick break, say goodbye to our guests. With that being said, you got the seal of approval from Jesse to check out Yellow Brick Road, and the seal of approval from Eryn, McGarry, Lynch Witch, Mad Pooper to check out Eraserhead. All right, we'll be right back, listeners.
Awesome.
Hey, listeners, we're back from that long break. Again, there was fire, meth, just a lot of problems.
A lot of prostitutes have died today.
There's a lot of goat sacrifices. We messed up on the first few sacrifices. I mean, you know how it goes.
I know, we were a bunch of bad people.
Some might call us a bitch.
Yeah.
Shout
Still
out to
hands-
Drag Me to Hell review.
That's still my favorite scene in that entire movie.
Bitch.
You son of a bitch!
So going into it, I'll go ahead and start us off, guys. So I kind of did something. I always try to do something a little different from my reviews every now and then. So for this one, what I decided to do was kind of do something a little more low key, maybe not as expected, but one that I feel that was horribly, horribly overlooked and deserves way more attention. And the movie I did was 2017's Little Evil. So, again, came out in 2017, directed by Eli
It's
Craig.
not Little Nicky, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
No, it's not inspired by Little Nicky.
Half and half. I'm just kidding. So it's directed by Eli Craig and written by Eli Craig. Stars Evangeline Lilly, Owen Atlas, and Adam Scott. And the premise is Gary, who has just married Samantha, the woman of his dreams, discovers that her 6-year-old son may be the Antichrist. You know.
Aren't they all?
No, I'm just playing. So, going into this movie, obviously I'm going to start off with my pros. So, Gary's comedic, which is portrayed by Adam Scott, is his comedic delivery throughout the movie and his obliviousness to like the macabre nature that is behind Owen Atlas's character, which Owen Atlas's character's name is Lucas, is really well placed in this movie. It's very Adam Scott. And one thing I was worried about, like Adam Scott being a horror movie, if it'd be like too much Adam Scott, you know?
Yeah.
Just because we're so familiar with his works and like, you know, Parks and Rec and a few other of his, you know, works, and he, you know, even like Step Brothers, and I was worried it was going to take too much from the macabre of the movie, which his really does it. It's very well placed, and I like it. I think it does very well. It's kind of very reminiscent of like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. So if you really like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, you're going to really like the humor in this. And this movie actually like has a very great message underneath it when it comes to being a parent and being a step parent, about which the overall message is be like, even if your kid is Antichrist, if you want to be a great parent, all you have to do is just love them. And that's the message overall, is that you got to try to understand the kid and show them love, because they don't know how the world works. They don't know what they were born into or anything like that. And so they're just looking for understanding. They're looking for compassion. And like, you get that in this movie. And like, you know, kind of talking about with like, you know, how Jamie Lee Curtis was really connected with this, you know, fan of the Halloween franchise, and it touched on a personal, like, touching level. Like, same thing. Like, it touches on a very personal, touching level, and that's what I really like about it. One other thing is, Adam Scott doesn't carry the comedic flow in this movie. The other person who does is Bridget Everett, who plays his best friend in this movie. And she's so goddamn funny throughout the entire thing. Like, it's very like it's very kind of like a deadpan, like serious kind of like sarcastic humor throughout. Like, and maybe deadpan isn't the right word, but she's really fucking funny throughout the whole movie. Like, just like, I don't know why. Fucking like, there's a scene where like she's in a support group for like step parents, right? And so like she's just like talking about like how, well, she portrays a he. I don't know what the correct term would be. I guess he. So she portrays a he in the movie, and talks about like a moment she had with the kid, putting his hand on a speaker, listening to Rush, and she's like, "It's America, man." It's just like the line delivery. She does such a good job. She's fucking funny. I love her. Also, throughout the movie, you do see like sneaks of creepy macabre that increases throughout the movie, of like Lucas doing things to like people, kind of like how The Omen was,
Yeah.
but a little more like comedic. So like, there's a scene like where, it's Lucas's birthday, and there's this clown juggling like flaming torches, or not flame, like those, what are they, juggling pins?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, juggling pins on fire, lights himself on fire, and then you increasingly see like throughout the movie how Lucas gets more and more enraged easily, and just kind of just like gets red eyes and like makes birds go crazy, like, and so I really like that because it kept to that trope of like the Antichrist child who's just like doing more and more dark stuff throughout the time. Like there's even like raining blood in the movie, and I mean, how could you not think of Slayer at that moment?
Yeah.
And also, Owen Atlas doesn't really talk a lot during this movie. Like, for a good chunk of it, he does a really good job playing his role. And, like, even when he's not talking, the chemistry between Adam Scott, where he's carrying most of the dialogue in those scenes, like, their chemistry together is actually really, really well done and really good. And it just, like, really kind of thinking about it. Like, this kid isn't really talking. Adam Scott's character is carrying most of the dialogue, does a really good job of carrying the scenes and like pushing over Owen Atlas's character Lucas. So, with that being said, I do have some cons. So, unfortunately, for the way this movie is kind of portrayed, it's a little light on the gore and the macabre sometimes, and it kind of takes you out of it. Makes you think more it's like first foremost a comedy movie and less a horror movie, which might have been the direction they were going for.
Yeah.
But it's for a gorehound like me, it's I would have loved to see more gore in this movie because they would have gotten away with it, and it just, I don't know, it just seems like a missed opportunity for some good gore effects. There's also like almost no scare factor in this movie, and in my opinion, even if it's a comedy horror movie, it needs to have a scare factor. I mean, even Tucker and Dale had it like in the beginning with like the guy coming out of nowhere, the whole first person video. Like there was a good scare factor in it. It doesn't need to be like drop dead terrifying, but it just needs to have that feel, and this movie's kind of missing that. And then there's also like just a scene where like Lucas is dragging Gary through the kitchen because Gary's unconscious, and like they don't notice him at all dragging him, and it's just like it's such a wide open shot that like Evangeline Lilly, who plays Lucas's mother, should have seen that.
Yeah. And
like it's just such an obvious thing that like I just don't get why no one saw it, and that just, I'm gonna hold it as a con against the movie, just because I guess like, oh, like fucking Gary's carrying another dead body, or no, not Gary, Lucas is carrying another dead body. That's normal. Yeah. Oh, Lucas.
Little scamp.
And then there's this is kind of like a spoiler, so listener beware, but it's not a major spoiler. But there's a point where Adam Scott and his group of friends confront the cultists finally that are in this movie, and when like this has always bugged me in horror movies, whenever there's a cult, they keep like the cult leader from acting on his heinous act, his final act within the movie, by throwing a baseball at him. And, like, none of the cultists, like, grab him. None of the cultists grab Gary. They're just like, oh, well, he hit him with a baseball. Well, I guess we're done. That was it. Once there's a baseball, like, that's a sign. We're not supposed to... Sports ball. Yeah. We just can't intervene. Like, oh, well, I mean, there's more of us than him, but whatever. Yeah. Like, and it just kind of bugs me. Like, why did no one grab him? Like, not that I want the bad guy to win or anything, but, like, just saying... Like, there's more of you than them. You should have all ganged up on them. Like, what are you, pansy-ass cultists?
Apparently.
Like, yeah. And so that just really bugged the shit out of me the whole time, because I felt like it was just kind of like a rushed, like, final resolution with the movie, and so that bugged me. And then so, sorry listeners, this is kind of like a short review, because believe it or not, I don't have a lot of cons, because this is actually a really good movie, and it deserves a lot more attention than it's gotten. So, with that being said, before I end it, I do have one WTF moment. So, earlier within the scene that I just mentioned with the, Adam Scott's character confronting the cult leader, to, like, blend in, they find a bunch, him and his friends find a bunch of gowns and masks. And the gowns and masks just happen to be a box within the building. Because, like, the cultists just get this new building, move into it, and it's just, like, they just have a box full of, like, gowns and masks. And, like, so you just have that on the fly? Like... No, like, why would you just have that? Like, I don't know how cults work or whatnot, but, like, I'm assuming the gowns and masks aren't that expensive. Everyone just bought their own or whatever. I don't know, but it's just kind of weird. Like, was just someone like, hey, cult leader dude, fucking, yeah, I got this whole box of gowns and masks, but the wife doesn't want me to have it around the house anymore. Do you know what I can do? He's like, fuck, man, I got no room at my place. just put it in this fucking, church that I just bought. Let's just do it there. Fucking, all right, cool, yeah, man, that's not going to bite us in the ass, is it? Nah, what? Are people going to come in and, like, take them and try to blend in with us? Come on. Don't be silly. Like, it's just kind of fucking weird that there's just a box of, like, gowns and masks. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
With that being said, I do think that this is a perfect family horror film. And maybe not family in the traditional sense, where I would not recommend, like, having your little kids watch this.
Yeah.
But maybe kind of like fucking, like, your kid who's like 9, 10, maybe even 11, who's like a little more interested in, like, horror, like, start them off a little evil. It's actually a really good movie. There, like, isn't that many, like, screwed up scenes. Like, yeah, you have your blood, people getting impaled, stuff like that. But I mean, like, it's so good on its humor that it kind of takes you away from a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love this movie. I think it's a great indie film. I think it's a great, like, just kind of family, like I said, family horror film. And I give it my official PHP seal of approval. So, all right, Cody.
Cool. All right. So my independent film, I ended up watching Clown. And so, like,
you clowning around.
Anyways, it came out in 2014, and it's the synopsis is: a loving father finds a clown suit for his son's birthday party, only to realize that it's cursed. Director is John Watts, written by Christopher Ford and John Watts. It stars Andy Powers, Laura Allen, and Peter Stormare. And Stormare.
I think. I don't know.
Oh no. Anyways,
oh my God.
If you know who it is, it's the, like, he's always played, like, the evil German and everything. He's the VW guy from the
oh, is he the V-Dub?
Yeah, from the Volkswagen
in the house.
Yeah, that's him. He's the crazy dude who knows about the suit and stuff. So, just a little fun fact about this movie was that, like, when the trailer first came out for this movie, like, I totally thought it was a fake trailer.
Right.
Like, because I just remember seeing it pop up on Facebook and stuff, and so I was just like, oh, like, I thought it was a cool concept and stuff like that. And so, like, because, there was, for a while, there's a lot of fake trailers of movies and stuff. Like, it was a big thing to do. And, like, really well done trailers, because, like, that's exactly what they did. They just made and acted out the trailer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so then I realized it, and then when I saw this the other night, I was like, oh my God, it's a real thing. And I just remember being really into the trailer. And so when I started watching it, like, I got hooked, like, really early in this movie. Like, it does not, like, skip a beat, but, like, it was so well paced into, like, leading into everything. Right. Because, like, and it's almost heartbreaking in the beginning too, because, like, it looks like a happy family. The mom and dad are trying to do something really cool for their son's birthday party. She orders a clown. The clown cancels, and the dad's just trying to be a really good dad. He's a real estate agent, so he's at the house that they're doing the realty. He's trying to rebuild and stuff, and he sees in the basement after his wife, like, says, "Hey, honey, like, the clown canceled. I don't know what we're going to do." And so the dad's like, he's starting to put on, like, random shit that's in this basement, trying to make a clown costume, because he's like, I'm going to do something awesome for my son, be a clown. And then he sees this really old box. And so, like, in my head, like, if I were in some random basement and I saw this really old box, and I wouldn't open it. I'd be like, nope, that thing's probably cursed. And then, like, this is one of my biggest cons about it. It was just in the beginning with this. And he opens the box and he sees the clown suit, and it's like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put on that. I don't care how much I love my child. I'm not putting on some dusty old clothes from a dusty old box.
Right.
Especially a clown costume.
Which, horror movie survival tactic, never fuck with the mystery box.
No, and especially if it's chained to the wall.
Especially if it's chained to the wall in the attic by itself in the middle of the room. Yeah, which basement. I don't know why it would be chained into a wall in the middle of the room, but point being, don't touch the fucking box.
Yeah, seriously. And then another con that I have is, like, later on in the movie, I'm just going to talk about my cons first, because I actually didn't have a whole lot of cons for this movie, because, like, yes, you can see the issues with it, but, like, I just enjoyed the movie so much. I could look over them, like, really well. One of my other cons was that, like, in that same basement, because like the wife ends up believing the husband about this, about him being transforming into this evil clown after he put it on the costume. She goes to the exact same basement and sees a fucking chair that has like arm clasp, so it's supposed to like, you know, like an old electric chair.
Okay, yeah.
That you like strap people into and stuff like that. Yeah, with the restraints. It's not covered, so it's not like, you know, he just didn't look for it, like didn't see. How do you spend like, he's probably spent about 20-30 minutes in real time looking for a clown costume and shit before he found the box. How do you not see that? So like that's what bugged me, because it was the same basement.
His wife picked it up because she was going to remake it from a Pinterest idea she found.
I guess like that was one of my biggest cons about, like that was one con that I had about it. And then like it's kind of a pro, and then another con is how she kills the demon. So like, I mean, it's kind of spoiler. It's at the end.
I remember this.
Like that bugged me just because it made no sense to me of how he would do it. I don't want to spoil what happened. Just know that like, as cool looking as it was, it's in my head. It's. Are we
talking like
the hammer?
Are we talking this kind of like? Is this another Awakening kind of ending?
No, it doesn't ruin the movie.
Okay.
It just kind of ruins the moment in a sense for me, just because like she gets a hammer and somehow and. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to ruin it. It's just like, I definitely think it should have been something else besides a sledgehammer. Is all I'm going to say for the thing that she had to do to kill the demon, like the special thing she had to do. Anyways, so my pros for this movie though is that like it gets you into the movie right away, because like, you know how sometimes with transformation movies like it takes over a period of time. No, it happens almost immediately when he puts the costume on. Like he wakes up the next morning, he can't take the wig off. He was trying to get the costume off, but he couldn't because it just, and like it was already growing onto his skin, because he tries to cut it off from the wrist, slits his wrist.
Yeah.
Like you could, and it's almost a slow burn, but it's like so paced so well of his transformation, and also his transformation is on point.
Yeah.
Because instead of just like all of a sudden one moment he just turns into this giant monster demon, it just kind of like slowly builds up to it. Like it's small changes, kind of like the Fly with Brundlefly. How it's like small things.
Okay, yeah.
Like when he gets they even play an homage to the Fly, where there's this point where this guy tries to rip the wig off his head, and he's like, "That's my real hair," and he like pulls the dude's arm off, and he snaps the dude's forearm, and like the thing comes out, just like in the Fly when like he's trying to arm wrestle this guy, and he snaps the dude's forearm in half.
That's right.
Yeah, I was like, I got it. Like, I thought that was really cool. And so one of the things that I like, okay, so I thought this was really cool because how they did it in the movie made me really think this is where clowns came from, is that they talked about the lore of the Cloyne. It's an old Norwegian lore of there was this monster that looked like a clown that would feast upon 5 children, one for every month of the winter. And so I was like, is that real? Because like he said, over the years, like it would, once like the demon was banished or whatever, over the years, translation got miscommunicated and stuff. Like, you know, it changed over the years. The translation of this event changed over the years that you got the clown. That's why a lot of people are afraid of clowns, but then they're supposed to be all friendly and stuff like that, because they were appealing to children, because he would lure children to his cave.
Yeah.
So like that was the whole concept, and I was like, and I kind of I had to look it up, because I was like, man, is this like real? Because like just it was just kind of cool, one of those like abstract things that might be real, like, you know, lore and type stuff like that, because they really developed out like the lore of the Cloyne. And it's not real, but a fun fact about it is that this movie's actually the demonic lore of the Cloyne is actually inspired by Krampus, which is an actual lore, which is my favorite thing in the world. Oh my god. And I was like, the fact that happened, I was like, instantly love this movie. Like, instant. But and so yeah, like the lore behind the evil clown was really good, and they did that really well. The costume changes really well. And like there's this part in the movie where he's starting to turn into the demon a little bit more, and like the practical effects they did with it, I don't know if it's practical or CG. It looked practical, of where his hands and fingers start growing out,
that's
and extending. And I was like, oh my god, it like looked really good, and his feet were extending, like, you know, breaking through. Because like I would find that funny, like, you know, like in any other movie they usually have that transformation really funny, but like I could not get over it. I thought it was really done really, really well. And then,
Yeah, for an indie flick, the effects in this movie are actually pretty solid.
yeah, they were, and the blood was so good in this movie.
Yeah,
they did
that's true.
such a good job.
I like the scene where, like, his nose gets ripped off.
Yeah.
Because that's very, very well done.
Yep, that's very well done, and like the thing that's scary about it too is that can actually happen. Because like they were making fun of him, saying you shouldn't have used adhesive on there, you dumbass, and he's like, it just plopped on, like. You know, like, people were making fun of him because, like, some of the effect, like, you know, in the beginning of the stages is, like, those are, like, legit effects that doctors have dealt with.
Yeah.
Like, clowns super gluing noses to their nose, you know, the red noses to their nose, and they had to rip it off and shit like that. Jeez. So I was just like, that's clever. And,
get your nose.
Yeah, but the gore is really good, and there's subtle hints at things. So one thing that I also really liked about this movie is that it touched on the whole taboo of children never dying in movies. Because the only things that die, except for one guy or two people, adult males, are children. They're all the deaths, and they actually show some of them.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know, it's a little uncomfortable, but at the same time, you're like, fuck, this movie didn't pull any punches with that. Because, like, you know, we talked about, you know, children in horror movies way back a couple episodes ago. How that's always a taboo to show children dying. And, like, in this whole movie, it was all about children being killed. And they actually showed it. But there's this one scene where one of the kids die in a ball pit because he ends up going to a Chuck E. Cheese he's a demon. And, like, you don't see him die. He just, like, disappears in the ball pit. And this one kid drops in the ball pit. He's like, oh, it's wet in here. And so he's like, somebody peed in the ball pit. And it makes you question if that was an actual death. But the way you confirm it, it's really, really quick of an eye. The kid swings his foot out of the ball pit, and you just see red on the bottom of the sock. So quick, you'll miss it type moment. I was like, that's good. Okay, that was pretty good. So I like that. And then just like and when he fully becomes like the evil clown, like the transformation into the evil clown, it's so good. Like the costume was so good about it. And I really liked it. And so I thought that was really cool, and like he ends up killing 4 out of the 5 kids at this point in the movie, and so this is kind of a controversial part, but it really makes you think of it's one of those moments in horror movies where it's like it really makes you think, what would you do?
Right.
And so he tells the wife, because the wife's trying to, you know, figure out how to cure her husband of this evil clown thing, and he tells her, bring me another child and I'll let your husband go. And because you find out someone else wore the costume, and how they got rid of the costume was they ate 5 children. And the costume let the person go. So the wife has a chance to get her husband back, but she has to sacrifice a child. Oh. And it's like, what would you do? Like, it makes you think about it. Because I was sitting there thinking, I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I don't know what do I do. What's right. You know, do you lose your husband and have to explain where your husband went to the police? Or
you could also look like this. Maybe one of those children were going to be the next Hitler. You don't know.
You never know.
Maybe you did a favor for the entire world.
You could have done it, yeah. If the kid was, you know, Trump Jr.,
yeah,
possibly.
Maybe next Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean,
yeah.
We're not saying that she's a hero, but I mean, you know.
She's not necessarily an evil person.
I'm just saying, if the cape fits, Batman's considered a vigilante before he's considered a hero.
Yeah. Or, you know, if the mustache fits, the kid's probably Hitler.
Yeah. So I'm another Hitler or no another Hitler. Which do we go for?
Yeah, but yeah, and like it really, because like it kind of makes you think, is like, what should she do? Like, seriously. So I highly recommend this movie. Great independent film, and especially really good graphics for an independent movie. Like, they did such a good job on it. I recommend this over Stitches.
Oh, shots fired.
I'm just saying, too, I could not get in that movie. I watched 10 minutes of it and just couldn't get into it. I watched 5 minutes of this and I was hooked instantly. So, yeah. Another fun fact about this movie.
Which also I have to give some fun facts about Little Evil. I forgot to. That's my mistake.
Yeah. Fun fact about this movie. Also, the reason why it was a lot of people thought this was probably going to be, or also why I thought it was a fake film and stuff like that, was because they tagged Eli Roth as the director of this movie and stuff like that. Yeah. In reality, they just tagged him, and he heard he was tagged in some independent movie, and like saw the trailer and stuff like that and saw what it was, and he decided to produce it. I was like, what? Shit, I need to just start tagging high-known directors and everything. Maybe they'll just produce something like that.
Taylor Roth was on this episode of the Punk Rock Horror Podcast.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool, especially because, like, you know, a lot of people thought this was... I mean, at least what I heard, some people thought it was a fake movie. I thought it was a fake movie. And so, but especially because of that tagline and, like, you know, Eli Roth wasn't doing anything with it, but he decided to produce it. Okay, another thing. Oh, when Kent is writing down the address of Herbert Carlson's warehouse, there's a close-up shot of his hand where the audience can see something running through the veins in his hand. Since it is traveling in the opposite direction of what blood would flow, it is most likely to be the essence of the cloying flowing through Keith's body. Yeah, I did notice that. I thought that was actually really cool.
You want to throw in one more?
Yeah. Okay, in the arcade scene later in the film, various types of typical coin-operated games are shown. One quick shot shows an unknown game with a dinosaur that makes a certain sound effect before cutting away to the next shot. This sound effect is that of one of the various creatures in the 1993 video game Doom, as the Pinky D. Oh my god! I knew I recognized that sound!
See, there's so much more excitement when we read trivia facts in the moment instead of beforehand.
I know.
So,
yeah. And now we're going to jump back to the...
So, because I didn't throw in my little quick bit, like trivia things for Little Evil. So just, I only got 2 because there actually isn't too many. So, when Al, and this is in Little Evil, when Al mentions that his stepson always wants to watch the Pitch Perfect movie, everyone reacts negatively. That includes Larry, who's played by Donald Faison, who appeared in Pitch Perfect, the first one.
Huh.
And then when Al is telling the group about his stepson, he says, let's put on some Rush. Put your hand on a speaker, your hand on your heart, see if you feel something. That's what I was mentioning. Yeah. Sorry. Put your hand on your heart, see if you feel something. I said, what are you feeling? He said, nothing. I said, that's America. He didn't get it. The joke is that they're a Canadian band. That's funny. I went over my head. I never put 2 and 2 together.
Oh my god.
That's so funny.
This is America, but Russia's known for being Canadian.
That's right. I always forget that. I don't know why.
Too.
And like, it's nothing against Canada. I just always forget that.
Yeah.
But that being said, we do owe an apology. We did actually have a strange story for Monday. We just ran out of time. We will read it on our next Monday episode. Mm-hmm. We're very sorry to who sent it in. I can actually say who it was. It was the one and only Billy Fuzzy Toes. He has returned.
Yay.
With this strange story. So sorry, Billy. We weren't able to get to you. It's we just ran out of time. We'll get to it on our next Monday episode. Guaranteed. We'll put you up on there. Right there. Pinned in. So, that being said, kind of a short episode today.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for...
I honestly thought we were going to run over because of all 4 of us going through the...
We should have gone a little longer.
Yeah. Well, we also really liked our movies, so that was also another time cutter, which is funny.
Fuck us, right?
Yeah, I know. We actually enjoy the movies we want to review.
So, yeah, guys. So then we're just gonna do kind of like a quick, updates, inform you guys and everything. We kind of did a small one on our Monday episode, but just so you guys know, we are going through a couple changes within the podcast. Nothing severe. You're still gonna have the same old enjoyable 2 dudes running Punk Rock Horror Podcast.
Yep.
You're probably not going to see most of these changes be fully done until next year, but we do want to keep you guys aware of it and know what's going on. One of the things is that, as we mentioned in our Monday episode, we're going to be redoing our entire Patreon rewards. So, that being said, we're going to keep some of them, get rid of some of them. Right now, we're talking about it, figuring it out, and, we're going to go from there. And if there's a reward you guys want to see come back, then we'll bring it back. But just know that things will change on there. We're still going to offer great rewards for all of you, and we're going to keep you listeners in mind and the fans of us in mind when we are making these rewards. And so, just a heads up on that. Another thing is I think we could finally mention what we're going to do for October. You want to do it?
Yeah, why is not?
So, listeners, obviously,
we're canceling.
Yeah, podcast over in October. So, in October. So, obviously, we're a horror podcast. So, we did a lot of talking on what we were going to do for our October month of horror. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're actually going to delve into lore of specific monsters.
Yeah.
So we're going to try... So ones that we already got picked out are the obvious ones, which are vampires and werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to actually delve into the lore of lycanthropes and werewolves and the lore of vampires for you guys and give you a full in-depth history and science behind both creatures. And then we're going to do 2 movies for each one of those.
Mm-hmm.
2 movies that we felt were horribly overlooked that deserve more attention. But one thing I kind of want to suggest, and this is like, Cody has no thought of this right now. What I always suggest is that we want you listeners to participate, and we want you to suggest 1 or at least 2 monsters that you guys would love to see us talk about. What do you think?
I'd be down with that. Because, so the way we're going to do it is that each episode is actually going to be about the monster and the movies. So we're not going to do dedicated, one whole episode on just their backstories and lore and stuff like that, and then another episode on the 2 of the movies. They're all going to be in one. So like one whole episode is going to be dedicated to vampire lore and vampire movies, and then that will be a Monday episode, and then a Friday episode is going to be on werewolves and the lore in a horror movie. So like, just so you know, so you're going to be getting learn about 4 lores and 4 monsters. So definitely, like Matt said, we would like to hear about the lore and monsters that you guys would like to hear for 2 of them. We'll pick our 2 favorites.
Might even just do like a poll. Like we'll do a poll on our Twitter and our Facebook and see what you guys want to hear us delve into. Mm-hmm. So basically meaning if you guys want to hear more about like Krampus, then vote that. Make sure that that's the most voted one. Or if you want to hear lore about like zombies, how zombies really came to be in horror, let us know. Yell at us on our social medias, even our Instagram. Yell at us. So you'll expect that to come up more prevalent in September. But we want you guys to know that's what we have planned for October. It's going to be a fun episode. It's going to be a fun month. So it's going to be fun episodes. It's going to be great. With that being said, let's go ahead and close out this show. Ghouls and gals, you know how it is. Go ahead and follow us on Facebook at punkrockhorrorpodcast if you want to keep up with everything we're doing. And if you want to continue keeping up with everything we're doing, follow us on our Twitter at officialphp, and also
on our Instagram, punkrockhorrorpodcast, hashtag PHP podcast.
And if you want to be involved with the new rewards that we're going to be making for our Patreon, please consider going over to our Patreon supporter. And for only $2 a month, you will get access to some great rewards. We do have multiple tiers. If you want to, pledge more, you're more than welcome to. And we'd really appreciate it if you go over there and give it a look. And as always, guys, thank you, ghouls and gals, for tuning in. And podcast over.
Podcast over.